It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Pod from the Crypt with my co-hosts Rob Pasersha and Anthony Balzano. What's up, guys?
Hey, how's it going?
What's up? How you doing there, Chris?
All right. I'm doing good, Anthony. I'm doing good. Today, Anthony, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about one of my favorite horror icons of all time. We are going to be talking about Freddy Krueger and the Nightmare on Elm Street series. And because Anthony did such a great job last week on his top countdown on dolls, we're going to pass the podcast over to him again. And he's going to do the worst Elm Street movies to the absolute best Elm Street movies. But we are not going to do it alone this week because we have a special guest. We have David B. Jacobs on the podcast with us. What's up, David?
Yo.
How you doing, my friend?
I'm good. I just watched a bunch of Freddy Krueger movies.
Hell yeah, he's ready. David is a professional script supervisor. He's directed several horror shorts, including Blind Spot, which is going to be shown at the BBR Productions and Bad Film Festivals this month. I can't wait to check it out. Next month, you're saying? Next month. Okay, sorry, David. Next month. I put the link to his trailer in the description below. Check it out. It's gruesome. It's a throwback to 80s slasher horror, and it's going to be awesome. All right? So without further ado, I'm going to shut up, and I hope Anthony does not screw this up tonight because this is my favorite horror franchise ever. So if you screw this up, I'm going to stab you. But without further ado,
the horror.
All right. I trust you. You have a good horror mind. All right.
You better stay awake or Chris is coming for you.
That's right. Five slashes across the back. All right, Anthony. Go ahead, buddy.
All right, what's up, everyone? So before we get into the worst movies for this episode, I'm just going to show the horror collectibles that I have here for all you collectors out there. And we're going to start off with Freddy from the original A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, I like that one.
Is that when he takes his face off when he's chasing Tina?
Right.
Oh, my God. That's dope, dude.
That was such a cool scene. That actually caught me off guard because I'd forgotten that when I rewatched the movie the other day.
I got Freddy when he has the heroin needles on his fingers from part 3.
That's cool.
Oh my God.
Awesome.
It's so fucked up. It's so disturbing.
Cool.
Got Freddy here from part 4 when he's the nurse in the hospital.
Oh, man.
Well, it ain't Dr. Seuss.
Well,
that's
it
for
ain't
sure.
Dr. Seuss. And Freddy from Freddy vs. Jason.
Oh, yeah, there we go. I'm a big fan of that one, Freddy versus Jason.
For the worst movie, which I think is obvious to all people who love Freddy Krueger, is the remake from 2010 directed by Samuel Bayer. And the Freddy Krueger was not played by the famous Robert Englund. It was played by Jackie Earl Haley, which, I'm sorry, buddy, but I really don't give a shit if you don't like my opinion, but you absolutely fucking ruined this movie with you playing Freddy Krueger. It was the worst thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's
So
not
I'm
why this
gonna
movie
throw
sucks.
It's not the complete thing,
Okay.
but there's definitely many other things to it. But I'll throw it over to you, Rob, and you tell me what you think of this movie.
God, I got to tell you guys, I think this was the hardest movie to get through on our entire list so far. Episode 7, I think this trumps Texas Chainsaw 3D. I think it's even harder to watch than Hellraiser 9. What was that one called? Not Judgment. I forget. Fuck that movie. Revelation sucked so much donkey balls. This movie is such garbage. Oh, man. I can't tell you. How do you get a bad performance out of, what's her name, Rooney Mara? She's an amazing actress.
Oscar nominee Rooney Mara.
Yes, there we go. Thanks for that one, David. I hate this film. I fell asleep twice. I kept pausing it and rewinding it. The guy who plays Freddy is lame. The script is lame. It's not scary. The gore is bad. The acting's bad. The dream sequences are lame. Even the special effects are bad. There's nothing to like. What do you think, David? Why does this movie suck?
I hate this movie. I'm actually going to defend Jack Earl Haley. I think he doesn't necessarily do a bad job. The problem is that the movie doesn't know what it's going for. It is trying to do this dark and grounded and realistic take. It makes Freddy more explicitly a pedophile. He's always been a pedophile, but in this movie it is part of the text. And Jack Earl Haley, when he gets those dark and real and terrifying lines, like when he tells Rudy Mara, "You smell different," like it's creepy, it's terrifying, he's great. But then they also give him these classic Freddy zingers. He's like, "You shouldn't fall asleep in class," and it's stupid, and it doesn't fit with what the movie is, and he isn't able to balance both.
Yeah,
so
I don't understand why they were trying to go for this gritty effect. Well, at the same time, all the teens were spray tanned supermodels, and there's all this slow motion stuff. It's like you can't shoot a gritty, dark horror movie like it's a Transformers movie. And we got to say, this is the Michael Bay production company. They're the ones responsible for the, what is it called?
Platinum Dune Ship Bomb Productions.
Yeah, Platinum Dune Ship Bomb Productions, who are responsible for the Halloween remake, which Chris likes and I actually like too, and I think Anthony likes.
They weren't responsible for Halloween.
They were not.
Halloween. They did.
I thought they
Leatherface. They did Texas Chainsaw, and they ruined Jason as well. They didn't ruin Halloween.
I got to tell you,
I think it was Miramax.
But this Nightmare on Elm Street is the worst of all these Michael Bay productions. It's so bad on so many levels. I can't defend a single scene of this film. You know, the iconic scene of the original, when the girl is on the ceiling and she's getting tossed around and her guts are getting ripped out, that is so scary. It is so awesome. It looks so real. In this film, she lifts out of bed in like glorious slow motion. It almost looks like she's meditating. I hate this fucking movie. I really do.
Can I tell you why I think it sucked?
Yeah.
First of all, as a precursor, I don't think this is the worst movie in the franchise. I don't. I think Freddy's Dead is the worst one. So I disagree right off the bat.
You're dead to me, Chris. Freddy's Dead is actually awesome.
We'll get into it in a second. The reason why this movie sucks is because it's a quick cash grab, and any famous scene from the original movie is remade in this one with CGI. When Freddy pushes through the wall and Nancy is sleeping, they have Nancy running through the steps, and the steps are CGI that she's stuck in the sludge. This whole movie, like I said, it was nothing but to make money off of a franchise. There was no originality into it. They hired a director, Samuel Bayer. Samuel Bayer is famous for commercials. He has no horror or like any kind of resume in horror. They could have did so many different elements with this movie, and instead all they did in this thing was jump scares. It was one jump scare after the next.
They were the worst jump scares too.
They were. And you know what was a problem with this movie with jump scares and where the original source and this one sucks, because it was CGI and because it were jump scares. The dreams, right? So in the original movie, you do not know when they're in a dream or when they're not. It just goes right into it. So like Nancy, she's sitting in the classroom, and all of a sudden Tina's body in a bag starts walking by. It starts getting dragged. This one, the music comes up. You could see that it's CGI looking, and we know we're in a dream. So there's no like horror or mystique about it. You just know that Freddy's going to come. As far as the Freddy Krueger played by Jackie, he did a valiant effort, but he does not hold a candle to Robert Englund. I appreciated that they went in a different direction.
I'm going to cut you off right there, Chris, because I do want to talk exclusively about Robert Englund's performance compared to this other guy. But I want to go back to your other point, which I think you made very clear, was that this film was obviously over-directed, and it makes it not scary. We know when certain things are going to happen.
I don't think it was over-directed. That's not what I said.
I think it was over-directed. You don't think it's over-directed?
I thought it was directed. It was phoned in. It was done.
Well, that's what I mean.
And you were talking about Rooney Mara. she phoned this in as
Absolutely.
I don't think she gave a shit. I think there's interviews of her saying that she was not interested in this franchise or the film itself.
Well, when I say over directed, what I mean is that music's chime in, this camera moves in a certain way. Like you see what's going to happen well before it happens. And the jump scares are all of Freddy Krueger, who we've seen for 9 movies already. And he shows up in like one of the first 10 shots of the film. Right away, we see him clear as day. Freddy Krueger. There's no mystique. There's no suspense. And a guy who we've seen for the first 45 minutes of the movie isn't going to jump scare me when we just see him again. It's not going to work.
What about
Jackie Earl Haley looked super uncomfortable throughout this movie playing Freddy Krueger.
All the actors looked
agree?
uncomfortable.
No, but like especially him. He was barely even able to like move his mouth when he was like talking. He looked terrible, like absolutely terrible.
You know, I actually
And
like him too. I like him in a lot of
What
movies.
pissed me off the most is no one in Hollywood should have even tried to attempt to remake this film. For this reason, Robin Englund wasn't playing Freddy Krueger. And 2, Freddy Krueger, out of pretty much the main horror icons that are known, is the one with the most character. So if you can't get someone that's going to do equal to Robert Englund in the movie, then you shouldn't do it at all.
Well,
I disagree with that. I disagree with that. This was a different take,
Why?
different spin on
with
it.
with Michael Myers and Jason and them, it's so easy to just get anyone that's big and play them.
Well,
If
it's
you
just another
had
person in a
somebody,
mask.
if you had somebody play a character of Robert Englund, it would have failed even further. This movie.
Well, they were trying to play it straight. They were trying to play it
No, my
straight
point-
and
my point
scary,
is-
but it
Yeah,
wasn't
they were
scary.
trying to play it straight, but they just completely failed because they didn't know how to make a movie.
Right.
Well, yeah, they
literally
over-directed it.
The wide aspect ratio, and then we're going to do everything in orange and teal. So in film, there's like a cliche where if you don't know how to make a color palette, you do everything. There's orange and there's teal, and those are just 2 colors. And you can take any frame in this entire fucking shit show, and it'll be orange and teal. If you had a drinking game, drink every time it's orange and teal, you would die within the first 10 minutes.
Well, that's a lot of movies in the early 2010s. But this movie, I agree, is like specifically grievous in this regard.
Yes, even like when you go into the dream world, there should be something interesting. There should be some cool visual. Instead, it just looks the same boring color palette, nothing interesting. They're just in the same room doing some CGI, not even anything unique or original or interesting. It's boring.
This movie lacked imagination. That's one of the greatest things about this franchise is the imagination of the kills and the dream sequences. And you'd think a film with a bigger budget would do a better job of this. And this is where they completely failed. The art design of this film is lame. Every part of this movie is lame. The only part, no, there are no parts that I like. I can't think of anything. Chris,
I was begged to watch this film. I'm serious. I completely didn't want to see it when it came out. And it went on for years before I finally got begged to watch it. And after like 10 to 15 minutes, I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I was like, this is why I didn't want to watch this film. I was like, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Who begged you?
A girl.
Oh,
Why?
fair enough.
Did she like it?
There's actually
bit.
There's a lot of people online who defend this film.
That's the reason why she's in the past.
There's one good thing I like about this movie. I like the concept that they introduced about the micro naps. That was kind of cool, and like it helped play into that scene when Nancy's in the drugstore and he keeps flashing back from reality to dream. So that was like a cool scene, and that was a cool concept, but they really didn't take it any further. I wanted to ask David what your take was of creating this question in the audience's head is Freddy innocent or not? Do you think that was
wanted to go on a rant about this. I was waiting for my chance to go on a rant about this. So this is the dumbest fucking plot point. It's an interesting idea. There is something that you could do with this if the filmmakers and the writers were actually interested in this concept. They could have made a compelling mystery, but they weren't interested in it. By the time they introduced this idea, he's already killed 3 people. He has he's locked in 2-time Oscar nominee Rooney Mara. He told her she smells different. Oh, he licked her. He licked her. That was what I meant to say. He told 2-time Teen Choice Award nominee Katie Cassidy that she's as pretty as ever before he killed her. And then on their way to go and find a thing that's going to prove his innocence, he attacks them again. Why do they think he's innocent? What reason do they have to think this guy is not guilty? It is so dumb. It makes no sense. The first time I watched this movie, I didn't realize that they actually thought that.
Yeah, that scene is really hard to watch when they're in the principal's office, and he's like, "We did what we had to do," and he's like, "Oh," he's just so angry. The reactions of characters in this film are baffling. Do you remember when the kid almost drowns, and then the coach is just like, "Are you okay?" It's like the kid just like puked up water, and he's dying on your watch. You're like,
I challenge you to give me one identifiable character or personality trait for anyone in this movie.
I can't win that challenge. There is no personality. Like when they talk about cardboard characters, this movie might have the most cardboard cutout characters of any film I've ever seen. I don't.
Cardboard cutout is more interesting than these.
Honestly, I think this film would have been better with hand puppets. There is nothing. Yeah, go ahead.
Wait, I want to ask from what you were saying that the characters are so bad. There's this scene where like Nancy's mother's revealing about Freddie, and she goes, "Yeah, you were one of his favorites." So that means like that she knew about this guy Freddie, and that she was coming home and saying that this guy Freddie is my friend, and they didn't do anything about it like sooner. It was so unrealistic that like parents would just like allow this guy to be friendly with their kids at a preschool. It's totally unheard of.
I don't know, dude. I kind of feel like the actors gave a performance that was somewhat decent because there's a lot of star power in this film.
Yeah.
And then they just went in the editing room. We're like, nah, let's take the one where they just say it as like deadpan as possible to the point where it's almost like The Lobster, which, by the way, I'm not a fan of that movie, but it's a good example here. It's almost like The Lobster in that, like, it's almost a deadpan comedy, the way people are delivering lines in this film. I don't understand it. It's all phoned in. You guys are right. The whole film is phoned in to an extent I don't think I've ever witnessed before on the screen.
Do you know
a B-rated horror, probably with a $30,000 budget, is probably better than this movie.
Wow.
But Connie Britton does have orange hair and teal eyes, so good choice for them.
There you go. That's pretty funny.
Okay.
All the actors have teal eyes.
Did you guys catch the plot hole? And this bothered me. I was done after this part. When the Asian guy is sitting at his computer screen and he's like talking and he's like warning the other kids on the laptop, and all of a sudden he falls and he gets knocked out and he dies. He dies like on camera. Who uploaded that? Like if he's dead already, how did he upload that video? You know
His
what I'm
head
talking about?
slammed on the upload.
It wasn't a live. It wasn't a live stream. I don't.
It wasn't a live stream, but still, the mother found him dead and was like, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna upload this so Nancy could see it in 6 months."
Honestly, I think I fell asleep for that scene. I don't even remember it. I watched that movie like 2 days ago.
I bet you it was so boring you didn't even get a nightmare of Jackie Earl Hurley. I can't even say his name. It doesn't matter. Forget it.
I don't know. I actually like him. If any of you guys ever seen Doll Man?
No. I saw the Bad News Bears. He's in that. He's a kid.
Well, Doll Man is one of his is one of the last movies he was in the early 90s, and they didn't act again for years and years. But Doll Man's about a miniature-sized space detective who goes to Earth to find a floating head. He's the size of a G.I. Joe doll, hence the name. And he like blows that guy's arms and legs off. His name Jackie Earl Harley with his gun. Just saying. So if you got to watch a movie with him, I'd watch Doll Man instead of the Freddy remake. I'm gonna give this like 2 thumbs down and 0 stars. I hate this film.
Going on to the next film after the remake is going to be Freddy's Dead, which is directed by Rachel Talalay. And it was a close call. It was a close call, you know, between this and the remake. But, I mean, I had to pick this over the remake because Robert Englund's still in it. But this movie sucks anyway. But I'll throw this off to you, David, this time.
Freddy's Dead is good. I like Freddy's Dead.
I agree. I like Freddy's Dead a lot.
Yeah, Freddy's Dead is just, it's so much fun. It's not deep. It's not meaningful. It's not like good acting or anything, but it's fun. It's a parody. It's all. They've got into the point of the franchise where Freddy is super campy, and they're aware of it. And they say, okay, well, if Freddy is campy now, then let's just make a campy, fucking awesome parody movie. Have fun with it. Let it be ridiculous. And there is no other movie that exists where one character scratches nails on a chalkboard and another character's head explodes.
Ah, I wanted to talk about that part.
Yeah, that's like the best scene in a movie.
Yeah, I was texting Chris while I was watching this yesterday, and that scene came on, and Chris is like, that movie sucks. And I'm like, dude, he just scratched nails on a chalkboard, and a guy's head exploded. and the guy's ear, see what happens is he cuts the guy's ear off because the guy has hearing problems, right? And now the guy can't hear at all. So this weird sequence where the guy's falling down a fire escape, and the volume is kind of like muted and stuff. So then Freddy, being Freddy, makes his ear turn into like a spider bug thing, and then he can hear extra loud, right? It's like a hearing aid with the volume turned all the way up to max. But then he starts dropping needles on the ground, like pins on the ground. Like he could hear a pin drop, get the pun, and the guy jumps, dives, and he catches it in his hand. So then Freddy drops 20 more, and the guy's like, no! And then he scratches the board and his head explodes, and it's fucking glorious and hilarious. And I was laughing.
I want to go back to what David was saying, how like they made it like such a parody, and they were just like, all right, you know, let's just go all out with it.
Yeah.
See, this is why I think I mainly hated this film, because I just feel like at this moment for Freddy's Dead, they really thought the franchise was over. And I just feel like knowing that, you should all have came together as a crew and be like, you know what? Let's really go hard on this, make it really fucking awesome and scary, and then Freddy dies at the end. But no, they went the complete opposite. Like, it just didn't make any sense to me. I feel like they could have did so much with thinking this was the end of the franchise. So that's where I think Wes Craven came in and was like, I gotta make a sick fucking another film to go after this, which was New Nightmare.
Yeah, see, I feel like this is the fucking, this is the Texas Chainsaw 4 of the Freddy movies. And I'm surprised you don't like it, Chris, because to me, this movie had a lot of like Texas Chainsaw 4 feeling to it. And I thought the whole thing was really funny. We definitely have to mention that this movie was released in 3D, and the really cheesy, corny 3D effects were beyond awful on my home TV. But that just adds to it.
3D, but I can't.
Oh, dude, I would love. Dude, the character, she puts on 3D glasses to. I don't know what they do. They do something. They do something. Puts on 3D glasses, then goes to sleep, and then I don't know. Chris, you look like you're about to punch me through the screen. No. What do you think about this film? You look so angry right now.
Chris, what do you think? Do you feel what I'm saying, or you have a different intake on that?
I think this is the worst abomination I've ever seen of Freddy Krueger or
shut up.
No, bullshit. You wanted it, I'm going to tell you. I totally agree with you, Anthony. They should have saved the best for last, because that's the slogan of this movie. It should have been really scary. They should have came around full circle, and they should have did something where it should have been the first half would have been how Freddy became Freddy. And they could have did the same thing with his daughter. But to make it like this joke comedy movie, and Freddy's a game show host, I don't fly with it. They had the Freddy pushing out the spike bed like he's
that was
Bugs
so
Bunny or a cartoon. You have Roseanne Barr in it, and Tom Arnold doing cameos. You have Johnny Depp doing "This Is Your Brain," "This Is Your Brain" on drugs, which is awful.
You make me want to rewatch the movie
This
right
movie
now.
is
It's so funny.
Dude.
See, I don't get you guys. This is what I don't get. In Freddy Krueger 5, he makes a guy into a comic book and then kills him in 2D. And then you guys are telling me that the movies are serious and this one goes too far. I don't think any of the
This
Nightmare on
movie
Elm
goes
Street
too
movies
far.
are
This movie
particular.
goes too far.
You're saying it goes too far.
No.
Whereas in the
I'm
other one, he
saying
turns the
that
guy into a
I'm
comic
saying
book.
that it completely any kind of like anything that Freddy had that was horrific or horror is gone. And this movie had one of the worst endings ever in any movie because they went off of the CGI, not CGI, the 3D, and all it is Freddy's head exploding again. And you were saying, "Oh, I've never seen it before," where somebody scratches and somebody's head blows up. Well, they did it better in Scanners in 1981. So they did.
Yeah.
They did a rip off of that. This movie,
I guess you're right. They did rip off Scanners.
I saw in Never Sleep Again. That's the awesome documentary to check out. It's about every movie. It's one of the best documentaries I've ever seen in horror. They were saying that one of the scripts that was presented to New Line was from Peter Jackson that they didn't take, and it was really, really cool script because it was about like Freddy being this weak person and nobody's scared of him anymore because he's a jokester and all this stuff, and kids would take drugs and fall asleep just to kick the shit out of Freddy. Seriously.
That's actually awesome. Okay.
Accidentally, he actually gets like enough strength, musters up to kill one of the kids, and he starts gaining his power again. And at the same time, there's something about a cop that like is in a coma, and he has to go into Freddy world. And I feel like that would have been a better take than to go into completely jokey way. You know Alice Cooper is in this movie?
Why not get both?
Huh? We had both. We had both.
I mean, it would be nice to have the Peter Jackson one as well, but that doesn't mean you can't have this one also. Let's get both movies.
I think
Nightmare movie.
Peter Jackson should make that movie now. That sounds like a really good idea.
It's a great idea. But that's not, they could have did other things with the script at hand. It was not a good script by any means. It was just, it failed from the first, the first shot. It was supposed to be, the heavy set woman in the airplane was supposed to be Divine. You know who Divine is?
Yeah, I know Divine. That would have been awesome. That should have been Divine.
John Waters movies. Because Rachel Talalay, she was a big production assistant on a lot of John Waters movies. A lot of John Waters people made this film. So.
Yeah. I don't know. I think
is like a low-key personal hero of mine.
I like John Waters.
Rachel Talalay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Rachel Talalay started off on A Nightmare on Elm Street, the original, as an assistant production manager. She got promoted to production manager. She got promoted to co-producer, to producer. She just steadily rose up through the ranks with each installment until number 6 she gets to direct, and it's awesome. It launched her career. That doesn't have like an amazing career, but she has a career. She has a movie that we're talking about in a podcast 30 years later. I think that's freaking awesome. I love Rachel Talalay.
She rose up in her career a lot faster than I did. That's for sure. I've been on a lot more than 6 movies. And they're a lot worse than the Freddy movies.
Listen, I give people credit that they could move up and launch their careers whatever way they have to do it. All I'm saying is that this movie really sucked because it did.
This movie's good.
I
love this movie.
The ending's very funny.
Listen,
Anthony, please.
I just want to say one more thing. Listen, just hear me out, okay? Now, I'm not saying that I didn't enjoy Freddy Krueger's humor throughout the franchise. I thought it gave a nice touch. But I feel like if you think this is the last movie in the franchise of one of the scariest, iconic fucking horror figures of all time, and you make it a complete stupid fucking comedy with no scares at all, it's like you didn't even give a fuck about the franchise at all.
I agree with you, man. They should have reeled it back in. Absolutely.
They should have made it scarier than the first one.
But the first one's really not that scary.
When it first came out,
Yes,
it's not.
so.
It's kind of
scary.
funny. It has jokes in it. Right in the beginning when he's cutting his
Very
fingers off.
personal. Some
No,
people will be scared by things, other people won't.
No, Freddy
Yeah,
Krueger
that's
in
true.
the original Nightmare on Elm Street was serious throughout the whole movie.
No, not through the
Yes,
whole
he
movie.
was.
Rewatch it, man. He makes a lot of jokes. He's more serious.
But he's not
It's
trying
definitely
to be
You,
funny.
you,
scary.
you can't
No,
be
he's
more
trying to
wrong.
be funny.
You are so wrong.
Rewatch the movie, man.
It's a
He's
serious
very
movie.
silly.
And
He
to go
goes,
to-
watch this, and cuts his fingers off and starts laughing maniacally. Like
That's
he's,
not
he's
co-
always
that's not
been.
comedy.
Funny.
That's
trying
not
to
saying
be
that
psycho.
we'll get you.
It
My
is
little pretty,
funny,
and
though.
Your soul
He does
too.
it. I laughed because it was funny. Like there's a lot of funny things in the original movie too.
Bullshit, man.
It's a
Listen,
horror movie.
Anthony,
I mean,
you're right because the movie was so bad that they brought back Wes Craven because Bob Shea and Wes Craven they had like a falling out, and he
Yeah.
brought him back because they needed to save the franchise. That's why the last movie, Wes Craven's New Nightmare, is all seriousness because the fans hated the jokingness so much. The problem with that movie was that because it came out after Freddy's Dead, the Final Nightmare, it didn't make as much money because people were already dead because of what Freddy's Dead did to the franchise.
Chris, Wes Craven actually said in an interview, he said, I made a New Nightmare because I had to give my fans what they wanted.
Yeah, this movie was an abomination.
I gotta tell you, I don't think it was. I
love
thought it was
Nightmare.
better than 5. I don't know why you guys like cling to 5 because I thought 5
Okay,
wasn't very
5
good.
I didn't cling to
Five-
anything. I'm just saying that this movie's
I
bad.
did 5 with my dying breath.
Cling to 5. I mean,
Yeah.
It's just not as bad as 5.
Yeah, I feel like it's better than 5. I mean, this movie, yeah, I see what you're saying. It is a lot. Texas Chainsaw 4, you hate it for the same reasons. You feel like it's supposed to be this last hurrah to like an over-the-hill franchise in a lot of people's eyes. And
I
instead
didn't
they went
feel
a
the same way.
comedian.
No, I disagree.
No, that's what Anthony said.
No,
That's what
no,
Anthony
okay,
said.
I'm
No,
sorry.
no, because
Yeah.
I'm a very humorous person. People who know me, I love joking around all day.
Yeah.
But when it comes to horror movies and you have an amazing franchise that's legendary, don't fucking go ahead and make a joke out of it. I'm not with that shit.
I
Like
agree.
with the Texas Chainsaw and Freddy. Don't do that to a franchise like that. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
That's-
but both those franchises were already established as being humorous. Like
That's
Texas
like Jigsaw
Chainsaw 2.
being funny then, just doing the traps and then making a couple of one-liners after doing it.
I would
Don't
like that
appreciate
movie. I would like that. Well, the Saw movies are worse than the Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
Of
So
course.
Saw also goes in the parody with number 7.
I never saw number 7. We're gonna have to watch it for this, I'm sure.
It's like this. It's like here's a good example. Rob, imagine taking Chucky serious and making him serious throughout the whole thing.
Oh, instead of funny. Honestly,
Right.
like Child's Play 1,
Yeah.
I feel like he's scarier than Freddy to me.
He is,
I feel
but
like he's a
has the
scarier character.
humor, but he
Yeah,
starts
so does
off with the
Freddy.
humor throughout the whole franchise.
Yeah,
So you appreciate it.
1 has an equal amount of humor as a Nightmare on Elm Street 1.
Yeah, I agree. I do. And like Freddy has in-jokes against all of his victims throughout the
Yeah.
films. It's just that the first one actually had like an air of mystique and like some sort of suspense to it. Particularly that first scene where his arms are super long and he's clawing on it. Honestly, that first dream sequence in the first movie, I think is the best scene of the whole franchise.
I thought that was a great scene with the long arms like that.
I thought it was awesome too, yeah. But he does make jokes throughout the film at his character's mistake. And they always have this kind of comic relief ending where you think it's all good. And then they're like on some fake ass looking like school bus and everybody dies. I mean,
And
when his mother
Car
gets
has
pulled.
green and red stripes. Like,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous. It's cartoony.
Dude, when his arm comes through and pulls the mother through the front door little window and it looks fake as shit, do you think they didn't realize that part was funny? Come
Oh
on.
no, they were
No.
really annoyed. They couldn't get that effect to look good. They
Yeah.
talked
No.
about it in the documentary. Russ Craven was so annoyed.
No,
It was
No,
so
that-
funny. Huh?
No, that really is very true. Wes Craven was super upset about that scene because of how bad it looked. He knew it looked bad.
Yeah, you
I
know,
wish he could have did a better job with that.
It doesn't bend or anything. It just
yeah, I think there's a
But
lot
that
of scenes.
is the only flaw I think in the movie. That's the only flaw.
When he takes his face off, not when he takes his face off and you see the skull. When he takes his face off in another part, it looks super fake in the first one too, and that part's funny too, kind of. But I mean, I get what you're saying. There's almost no horror at all in Freddy's Dead, But the ending reveal when we find out that he killed his wife and he had a daughter, that scene is so funny in like just like the dark comedy kind of way when she comes in and Freddy's just this weird ass little kid, and then he just picks up what was it, like a mouse, puts it down, just starts smashing it in class, and then all the kids come over and start making fun of him. That was so funny, dude. And then he's just like smashing it.
And I'm just like, how do you know that?
How do they know that? Who would know that? How would you go to a school and tell everyone? I have 100 dads.
Like,
I'm just glad that people are entertained by shit out there. That's all I gotta say.
You know, this is
All right,
following up the Human Centipede, so there's obviously a big audience for shit.
Let's move on.
Okay.
Enough with this shit. All right. The next one on my list is Part 5, which is directed by Stephen Hopkins, and this was the last Nightmare on Elm Street movie that was in the 80s, which was in 1989. Personally, yeah, this movie was pretty bad, but it did have some good scenes. I felt like the baby scene was probably the dumbest shit of the film.
Yeah, there was a novice director on this one. I forget what her name is. I'm not looking at it right now.
It's not a girl.
What's her face?
It's not a girl. It's a guy.
Stephen Hopkins. He made
Stephen
Predator
Hopkins.
2. He wasn't a novice director. What was going on was that they rushed this out into production. They literally, and you could personalize with this, and so can I. They were shooting while they were banging on and building sets like right next door. Like that's how fast they had to like put this out. And they really didn't have a script. Supposedly they were like making it up as they were going. And Stephen Hopkins was he was like a comic book guy, hence why that scene is in there that you were talking about earlier about the comic book kill. But he was a comic book guy, and a lot of this movie was just storyboarded. What I did like about this movie though
Was the priest stuff.
The priest stuff.
Yeah, with the nuns.
Priest?
There's a nun.
Oh,
the nun. Yeah.
no.
I feel like those are all the parts you like in movies. The nuns.
Yeah. All the
If there's a nun,
religious
you
shit.
like it. Yeah.
No, I like the Dan's kill is like one of the best kills in the entire franchise, and it's unfortunate because it was cut. A lot of this movie was cut. In the MPAA.
There's the part where his like in the final cut of the movie, they cut at some point. He just has no hair all of a sudden. In the full version of it, his skin peels back and reveals this like metallic bold bit underneath. It's awesome.
It's so badass, right, dude? What about when it's going into his skin? All the wires are going into his skin.
Yeah. Some Tetsuo shit.
That was awesome. That part is great. I love that part of this movie.
I said the dinner scene was pretty cool too when he's feeding her with.
Oh, that was nasty, man. Just feeding her face. That thing was so gross looking. I liked it.
They cut that too. In the original cut, he's sticking it into her stomach, his glove, and he's feeding her own intestines.
Oh,
right.
What the balls, man. This reminds me of Texas Chainsaw 3, where you said that it was bloody. But I got to tell you, Texas Chainsaw 3 is awful. That's all I got to say about it.
This movie was like on the cusp of like the franchise. I agree. It was going downhill, and they tried to like make it darker than the fourth movie, and it dealt with serious issues like abortion and pregnancy. But it didn't have like that pizzazz or that rewatchability that some of the other movies had. And I don't really like Alice as the protagonist in either 4 or 5, to be honest.
I kind of agree with you there, but I think it does deliver
David. I said that.
Interesting. It delivers on interesting creative kills and dream sequences. And I think that's really what this franchise is about at its core is Freddy toying with people, showing them their inner fears, and then murdering them in horrific ways. And the ending has some really gross, cool special effects with like I like little Freddy when he makes that gross thing. It has kind of a cool storyline. The idea that like an embryo baby is that's probably not the right word. Like before you're born baby fetus is dreaming. What makes this film so interesting is that since it's an unborn child, that there's no safe space. There's no time where you're awake and you're safe from Freddy Krueger. And I think that aspect of the story is kind of cool. They kind of toy with it. Just unfortunately, it's not put together very well. And I kind of feel like it would have been better if it was funnier, because it's a funny film, and I don't think it's intentionally funny in a lot of places, except for the comic book scene. Like Super Freddy was obviously a joke.
David, what do you think?
Love this movie, and I will defend it with my dying breath. I could talk for an hour about how fascinating this film is. Everything you guys said is right. Like it is so flawed. The graduation scene in the beginning is shot like they had no production design, so they're just shooting like a sea of the same 10 people in every shot because they don't have a background. It's like it's not well made in any way, but it is fascinating. It's what I found so interesting in the Never Sleep Again documentary, when they're talking about it, they'll just say like, oh yeah, Freddy's the dad, Freddy's the dad. They don't even mention the fact that in this movie, it's never confirmed that Freddy's the dad. You just assume he's the dad, but Alice is convinced that Dan, the motorcycle death, is the dad, and no one ever questions that, even though Freddy is obviously telling her like, yeah, he raped her. The opening of this movie is a fucking rape scene, and the entire thing is about what this woman is doing with the child that she had out of a rape, and determining whether it is her child or whether it's really the child of her rapist. And that ties back into Amanda Kruger, who has a bigger role in this one than she does in, I think, any of the others.
Yes.
Freddie's mom was also a rape victim, and obviously her child really resembled her rapist way more than he resembled her. And Alice is trying to fight against that to sort of break that flow. She wants to reclaim it. She says, this is my child. I am keeping it. She's choosing that. I don't think the movie's anti-abortion. She just makes the choice that she is going to keep the child. And some people support it, and everyone who doesn't support it is kind of the bad guys of the movie. It also ties into how throughout this entire franchise, every parent is terrible. Like, basically the heart of this franchise thematically is that the parents do not listen to the children. And this movie is so interesting because now you have one of the children is becoming a parent. And is she going to be like all the other parents in this movie? Or is she going to be better? Is she going to listen to her kids? Is she going to create something good out of all of this tragedy? And it ends open-ended. You're not really sure in the end how the kid is going to grow up, if he's going to be okay or not. It's really interesting.
I do agree with you. There's a lot of great ideas in this film and a lot of inspiration. It's just unfortunate that it was rushed out in production so quickly. Particularly that scene where we go back in the flashback when we see Amanda Kruger in the crowd of maniacs and they just like lock the doors behind her. That scene is so absurd. It's so dumb. And we do get to see.
I don't think it's stupid.
The way it's done is so silly. It's like, I mean, I guess silly, it's a dream, but
I think here's why the movie I do find a little bit scary. Like, I'm not really scared by any of these movies, but for a movie to scare me, fear is very personal. For me, it needs to kind of not make sense. It needs to lean into surreality. So The Shining, Jacob's Ladder, those are the movies that actually scare me. And this one, in its amateurish filmmaking, kind of just leans into that surreality more than it's even intending to. And it really just keeps you off guard. And it winds up being unintentionally scarier than it should be because of how bad the direction is and how little it makes sense.
You guys don't think that going back to both of what you were saying, the production design is excellent, and I think that the first scene is like very horrific and scary for a dream sequence of Amanda Kruger getting stuck in this asylum with 100 maniacs, and I did all the sets are amazing, even the ending where the stairs are like opposite. You know they had
It's so cool.
No, they had Robert Englund actually stand upside down for that scene. When he,
oh, really?
Yeah, he goes like this to the kid. He slashes at him.
They flip damage. Oh, that's cool. Okay.
Yeah, but I thought that, it was rushed, but the production design was really good, and there was some really good scenes in this like abomination of a movie. Like I said,
Agree. Yeah.
it didn't have like a good overall structure to it story wise, but it had some awesome horror in it.
Yeah, yeah. There was
Yeah.
definitely like some cool, like I was saying, there's a lot of good like points in this film, but it's just kind of all over the place. It's non-cohesive. The protagonist isn't very likable. A lot of the scenes are pretty
So
laughably
likable.
bad.
Why don't you guys like Alice?
She's just not. I
Fucking
don't know. Her
annoying.
acting is kind of campy.
Terrible.
Yeah, yeah. I don't want to call her out and call her the worst.
Bad
but-
at.
I don't know.
I really did love the that beginning scene with the asylum with all those guys. I remember seeing it. And I'm like, they could have actually went really dark with this scene because it was pretty scary the way it looked, and the way Robin Englund, like the camera was so close on him
Mhm.
without being Freddy. And I kind of like the first thing I thought to myself was, can't they turn him like into Freddy, like right there when he's looking into the camera with all these dudes, and then he just starts murdering massively all these fucking people in there, and then like just fucking burns them all. I thought that would have been like so fucking awesome if they did something like
It's
that.
not about them. They're not even really there. They're dream people. It's all about Alice.
Yeah, I
That's
know, but I mean,
Yeah,
it's a
you know,
dream.
I would have done
Do
that a
whatever you
different
want.
way.
It is all the maniacs. All the maniacs are Freddy in
No,
that scene.
They should have
I'm
had
saying, like, it
Freddy's
would've been a cool
sperm
psychological
competing.
thing to do.
They should have had Freddy's sperm competing with 100 other sperms and killing them all with a claw, and then that's how he beat out and got her pregnant. I think that's
That
what
would,
should have happened.
that would go well with the embryo scene where she goes inside the X-ray thing that I'm blanking on what that's called now. That completely
Sonogram?
absurd. He goes inside her uterus.
Yeah, I like at the end when he has to face off against Little Freddy, and Little Freddy has that disgusting thing that shoots out into his abdomen. That's awesome. That's like so Nightmare on Elm Street, just gross as hell, 80s horror.
The side characters, particularly Mark and Greta, the comic book dude, and the anorexia by proxy girl. I looked up what it is because she's not really anorexic. It's her mom is forcing anorexia on her, which is a real thing, and it's really fucked up. But those two characters, I love those characters. They are interesting. They are complex. They have motivation beyond just I want to be alive. They're good characters who you care about and you want them to survive. Alice's dad is so endearing in this movie. I know, Rob, you said I think you haven't gotten to rewatch Dream Master yet. I don't know if I was supposed to say that or not. But in Dream Master, Alice's dad is a fucking asshole. He's like the worst person ever. He is an abusive drunk, and then his son dies. And then we get to him in this movie, and he's like completely changed. He's like realized what matters in his life, and he's the kindest, most supportive person now. He's the only supportive parent in the entire franchise all of a sudden. I love him. He's so endearing.
He should have died in this one.
Yeah.
Arguably. I'm fine with him surviving. Freddy never really targets the parents very often. He does sometimes, but not a lot.
This is gonna end the bottom 4 worst movies of the franchise, which I know out of all of us, who's really excited to talk about this movie, is my man Chris. And this is going to be part 2, which came out in 1985, the year after the original, and it was directed by Jack Shoulder. Now, I really did enjoy this movie. It was more on the serious side of Freddy. It took a different turn of the whole nightmare originality idea, but it wasn't a bad one. And I think we can all agree that it did have its homosexuality to come into place with metaphors used.
Yeah.
So I'm going to knock this off to Chris because I know this is his favorite sequel to the franchise. Go ahead, buddy.
Well, first of all, fuck you for putting it at such a low part of your Elm Street top 10 countdown or whatever it is. Because this movie rocks. I think you want me to say it. I think this movie should be number 2 on the countdown because I think it's even better than Nightmare on Elm Street 3. You hear me?
Wow.
I'll say it
Yeah,
again.
you're crazy
Better.
for that.
Better than Nightmare on Elm Street 3. I remember when I first saw this movie, I walked into Saturday matinee about 15 years ago, and they had the VHS staring there. So it was sitting there, and I bought it for like $12. I popped it in. I loved it. I loved it. This movie personification of the 80s. I love Jesse as the protagonist. I love Lisa as his love interest. At no point at all by watching this movie did I think anything was gay about it until after the fact of people saying that it was the gayest horror movie ever made. I think that it had, I mean, there are bad stuff about this movie, but I think it kept Freddy serious. I love the score to this movie. I love the new makeup by Kevin Yeager. He came on board to do the Freddy makeup. He looks more of like a witch in this movie. He has red eyes in this movie. Scary.
Yeah, I think
dark,
Freddy definitely
serious,
looks scary.
serious Freddy. He has awesome catchphrases, and they do the catchphrases right in this movie, Rob, and not wrong like in the 6th one. So when he cuts his brain and he rips it back and he holds up Jesse, and you could see it in my background right there. He says, I got the brains, you got the body. Awesome scene.
And then he cuts.
You don't
his
think
head.
that's a joke? You don't think that line is at least partly funny?
Isn't that a direct
funny.
like Hall and
It's
Oates
funny
like
for the
quote? Let me
right
say this,
reasons.
Chris. That's like a joke on like Hall and Oates, right? You got the brains, I got the looks. Let's make all
It's
the money.
It's not corny though, or
That is
cheesy.
super corny. What are you talking about? I
Not
thought it
the
was
way
good
he's
scene.
delivered. I feel like he doesn't deliver it that way.
Dude, what about the scene? Nobody talks about this. What about the scene when he goes into his sister's room and he looks down and he has
That
the
seems
glove
so
on his hand?
disturbing.
Yes, it is right because this is a great horror movie.
I like this movie.
The only problem I have with this movie is that it totally goes away from the mythology that the first one sets up. So the main problem with this movie is that Freddy is killing people outside of the dreams, which is totally bonkers and ridiculous. But it comes with one of the best lines when he's in the barbecue killing everybody. He says, "You are all my children now." I love that scene.
This is a really awesome movie. But I don't know how you missed like the homoerotic undertones.
I missed it on my first
Like,
watch.
Why?
I don't know.
Whip,
Dude,
Coach Schneider with some towels.
Well, yes, but he's also in his best friend's like, or that guy who him and him like kind of like have this back and forth like sexual tension, and he's in his room. He falls on top of him in bed while the guy's half naked, and he goes, "What do you want to sleep with me?"
He doesn't fall on top of him in the bed.
Yeah, he does. He falls right on top of him when he gets in the room, and then the guy's in there and he's screaming for him, and
Does he
Freddy's
do that,
coming
David?
out of him.
He falls on top of him.
No,
I
don't
think he
remember
falls.
that.
He gets right on top of him.
He
in there,
says,
yeah.
what's the line? He says, something is trying to
get inside of you.
me.
Lisa's trying to get inside of you, and you're trying to sleep with me.
Exactly. How's that not do the thing?
He
I think he's right on
Tails
top of
trying
him.
to get inside you, and you're up here. It's so great. It's so
I think I have a
silly.
screenshot of
I
it.
have no idea how I missed the
Guys,
subtext.
this
Yeah,
movie
dude.
though,
I
this
saw
is,
it though. Yeah, dude, I literally have it on my phone right now.
Yeah, we can't see
we
that,
can't-
Rob.
Look, you can see that. Look at it.
Oh.
He falls right on top of him. Right like that. And he covers his mouth.
No, he doesn't fall
No,
on top of him. He
he-
just
he
doesn't
Jumps
wanna
on
wake
top.
him scared.
Oh, he jumps on top of him. My
Jumps on
bad.
top.
He leaps
Even
on top of him.
more
My bad. Yeah. See, dude, there's so much. I like this film a lot too. I thought it was really cool. I do, and I like the subtext. I think it's kind of interesting. I don't necessarily think it's like pro. I don't know. I'm kind of struggling with what this film is trying to say, because I feel like it was trying to say something real, and then the director and the writer both kind of pulled back. Well, the actor really went for it, and the actor's name
No,
is
no.
Mark Patton.
Mark Patton.
No. Writers and actors.
Yeah, because well, I think what's interesting about it is that like Freddy Krueger is kind of taking on the form of like his inner real like homosexual feelings, and society is telling him no, don't do this. And at the end of the film, when his best friend and his girlfriend are like, "I love you, just make it go away," and he makes it go away, too bad because Freddy kills everyone on the school bus.
I disagree.
Like, you can't suppress
I think
that.
the theme
Exactly.
is love
Like bad.
conquers all. That's it. That's all it is. Love
What-
conquers all. Love.
Yeah,
wins.
you
Love
missed the
doesn't
point,
conquer
buddy.
anything.
I
You
didn't
just
miss
missed the point of the
No, I
movie.
didn't.
You said you missed the whole subtext the first time. You missed the subtext of the gayest horror movie of all time, which it's not.
I
It's
don't
not the
think
gayest
so.
horror film of all time.
I,
But
so what? If
It's an
when he's
interesting
dancing in the bed like that, I kind of, honest to God, I just thought that's how people acted in the '80s. I didn't think anything of it. I was just like, this is like a cool
Yeah, but then other people come into the room and he immediately like throws everything away. He takes off the Elton John sunglasses. Like he's got to hide it. If it was just how people act in the 80s and he'd be like, yo, what's up, Lisa?
I don't know. I like all the stuff with him and the bully, and he pulls his pants down when they're fighting on the baseball field,
Yeah.
and then he's whipping the coach in the butt, and he kills him. And then after he does that, and he's covered in blood. He's like, "Oh no, I just did this thing." When like the subtext of that is that he slept with his coach, and then you're like, "Oh man." But let's talk about all of our favorite part of this film when Freddy Krueger pops out of his skin. That is
It's
so
sick.
awesome.
It's so awesome.
Yeah.
That is, I agree. Okay, I give you that. That is my favorite part of this movie. What about that bird scene? How about
That seems
fake
dumb.
that bird was?
I
Oh,
like
yeah.
the bird scene.
That should not have made the cut. That was a dumb scene.
I thought that was cool because I didn't know he was dreaming at that point. When he walks in the room, he goes,
Well,
"God, it's so hot in
He
here."
wasn't dreaming.
Yeah, he was. Why do you think it was
Absolutely.
100?
No,
I thought he was
birds were
dreaming.
The birds were freaking out because the birds were
No.
dreaming.
Yeah, I guess the bird was dreaming and the bird exploded.
I
And
think. I don't know. It's a dumb
I thought that
scene.
part was cool.
Really poorly shot. I think there were some issues on set while they were shooting it, and it was just really poorly shot, and they just cut every second to try and make it look like something is happening. And none of these shots actually show anything that's happening because they couldn't get the effects to work or something.
Yeah.
It's not a good scene. It's a bad
Wait,
scene.
none of us have mentioned this scene yet, which I'm surprised. How about the creepy dogs?
Yeah, that was fake.
Oh yeah, those are cool.
I didn't think it was good looking. It
It was
not
just
hold up
so
30 years later.
weird to see something like that in
Yeah.
the movie.
I kind of like Mark Patton's performance in this film. I thought he was pretty good. And
Me
when he's
too.
freaking out, he really looks like he's freaking out. The one scene where he's at the bottom of the stairwell talking to his girlfriend and he's covered in blood, that scene's pretty hard to watch. That's not a great performance. But the rest of it, I think, is very good. Did you guys know? So let's talk about the first scene of the film when he's on the school bus and school bus is teetering on the edge of that like cliff and
Which is
stuff.
that's a cool scene.
Yeah,
It is.
Yes.
It is. There's something I want to mention in particular about it. So Robert Englund wanted to, when he puts his claw around his mouth, he wanted to stick his claw in and out of his mouth, which is directly like an innuendo. It was actually Mark Patton's makeup artist pulled him aside and was like, "Don't do this if you want to save your career."
Yes.
He was like,
To
"Okay,"
be
and he
fair,
decided not to.
England asked Mark Patton if this would be okay, and because of what the makeup artist said, Patton said no, and England said, "Okay, so I won't do that then," which is
Exactly.
how actors should act on set. That is
Yeah.
the appropriate way to go about that. Just want to make that clear.
Yeah. So for all the people who are already fans of Robert Englund, you can be more of a fan of him because he respects
he's-
other actors on set. And that's not something you can say about a lot of these films shot pre-1990s or even
Yes.
today sometimes.
Yes.
But that a lot of actors are assholes, you're saying?
Well, that talent, or especially naive talent, is abused on set, made to do things they're not comfortable with. I've definitely seen it a lot in the indie world. I don't see it as much on bigger productions. And David in particular seen it even more than me, like actors abused for real on set to the point where it caused serious problems.
I'm not going to get into it though because it wasn't. Yeah, I'm not going to get into that though.
Yeah. We don't need.
I was gonna say, this movie, I think, made him the biggest star. Like after this movie, I know like the first one he was Freddy Krueger, but after this, it was like a really breakout movie. And actually, the original film, Bob Shea and New Line Cinema, they really didn't make that much money off of it because they had to like get another production company. I forgot what they're called. Do you know, David, what they're called off the top of your head?
not New Line Cinema?
Yeah, they had to like go for the rest of the funding to make the first film. So any kind of profit most of the profits went to this other production company. So when they finished the original film, all they really had, New Line Cinema had to take away was the franchise. So this movie came along and it made like 150% more than the original movie, and this is the movie that established Nightmare on Elm Street as a franchise with legs. So this movie kind of like put the franchise on the map. The first movie put the movie on the map, and then this movie put the franchise on the map and made New Line Cinema money.
Hi, David. So I have a question for you in particular, because next week we're going to give our threes, which is great because I don't have it yet. What would be your idea for a potential sequel to this franchise? Would you want to air more on the comedy horror? Would you want to go full comedy? Or would you want to go maybe in a different direction fully and go more horror, like the original film?
I have put more thought into this than is reasonable. Not even for this podcast. Like last year when I was watching the whole franchise, I just had my idea of what I would do. So first off, I'm sorry, Rob. I love Freddy's Dead. Freddy's Dead isn't canon because it's a parody. So the first 5 movies are canon, and everything after that is not.
Agreed.
It's going to follow Alice's granddaughter. So we're going to find out what happened with Jacob. Jacob did not get rid of Freddy as he got older. He is currently in jail because he's murdered people for Freddy. And Alice's granddaughter is now Freddy's next anchor that he wants to possess. He wants to take over this one and use her as an anchor. And she's being raised by her grandmother now since her dad's in jail. So Alice is in there. And her only defense against Freddy is, so remember, Freddy, when he kills someone, he sucks in their soul. Their soul exists in his dreamscape, even though they're dead. So now some of them have managed to escape, and those souls continue to exist in the dream world. So you get Nancy, you get Kristen, you get Kincaid, you can have Jesse come back and finally be open about his sexuality and have realized who he is. And all of these characters, led by Nancy Thompson, are existing in the dream world trying to help Alice's granddaughter to fight off Freddy. That would be my opinion.
I think that's
good,
a good
man.
one. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Well, thank you guys for another awesome podcast. I want to say thank you to David B. Jacobs for coming on the podcast and giving us his insights onto the Elm Street series. Anthony, I agreed with some of your countdown, but not all. We're going to check out next week. We're going to do 5 to 1. So the top 5 best Elm Street series movies according to Anthony Balzano. So please like, subscribe, comment, tell us what you liked, you didn't like, if you agree with Rob's rants, if you didn't agree with Rob's rants. And we'll see you next week. Thank you, guys.
Smell you later.